What if the rise in prediabetes wasn't just about sugar, but about the disappearance of the very foods that once kept human blood sugar stable for thousands of years? For decades, we've been told that managing glucose is mostly about cutting carbs, counting calories, or relying on medications. But that story leaves out something crucial: entire root vegetables that quietly supported metabolic health long before insulin ever existed. The global prevalence of prediabetes has skyrocketed from an estimated 200 million adults in 1990 to over 700 million today, a staggering increase of more than 350% in just 3 decades. During this same period, global sugar consumption has tripled, but something else has also happened. We have systematically eliminated hundreds of traditional plant foods from our diets, replacing them with a handful of commodity crops that lack the complex nutrient profiles our ancestors depended on. The average modern diet now derives more than 60% of its calories from just 3 crops: wheat, corn, and rice, all grasses, not roots. When you remove the underground storage organs that once provided stable, slow-release energy, you fundamentally alter how your body processes carbohydrates. Stick around because number 7 on this list is a root vegetable most people have eaten, but almost no one realizes it contains compounds that significantly reduce post-meal glucose spikes in controlled clinical trials. And number 14 is so overlooked that modern medicine barely acknowledges it, yet traditional cultures used it daily for digestive and metabolic balance. Hit that subscribe button right now, because every week we connect cutting-edge nutrition science with the foods your body was designed to thrive on. Let's get into it. Here are 20 forgotten root vegetables that may support healthier glucose regulation, ranked from remarkable to absolutely extraordinary. Ancient Native American tribes across the Great Plains cultivated Jerusalem artichoke long before European contact, using its knobby tubers as a winter survival food when other crops failed. The Mandan, Hidatsa, and Arikara peoples of the Missouri River Valley planted these tubers alongside corn and beans, creating a Three Sisters-style agricultural system that sustained their communities through harsh northern winters. When French explorer Samuel de Champlain first encountered these tubers in 1605, he described them as tasting like artichokes, though they are actually a species of sunflower, not related to the globe artichoke at all. In Eastern Europe, it later became a famine food, sustaining rural communities through harsh winters, and during World War II, when conventional crops failed across occupied Europe, Jerusalem artichokes became a lifeline for many families who planted them in backyard gardens. The Germans even attempted to industrialize them as a source of inulin for commercial sugar production, though the project ultimately failed due to instability in the extraction process. Here's what they understood through generations of observation that modern biochemistry has now confirmed in clinical detail. Jerusalem artichoke is rich in inulin, a fermentable fiber that bypasses digestion and feeds gut microbiota. Unlike conventional sugars that spike blood glucose within minutes, inulin travels through the small intestine completely intact. Arriving in the colon, where beneficial bacteria like bifidobacterium and lactobacillus metabolize it into short-chain fatty acids, primarily acetate, propionate, and butyrate. These compounds then enter circulation and directly influence hepatic glucose production, improving how your liver processes sugar. Studies in the British Journal of Nutrition show inulin supplementation can reduce fasting glucose by up to 8% in prediabetic subjects by improving insulin sensitivity through short-chain fatty acid production. One particular randomized controlled trial followed 87 prediabetic adults over 12 weeks, finding that those consuming 15 grams of inulin daily experienced significant reductions in both fasting glucose and HbA1c levels compared to the placebo group. Here's the traditional use. It is best eaten boiled or roasted, never overprocessed into syrup extracts. Source fresh tubers from organic growers, and avoid commercial fiber powders, stripped of natural complexity. When roasted at 375 degrees Fahrenheit for about 30 minutes with olive oil and sea salt, the tubers develop a sweet, nutty flavor that masks their fibrous texture. You can also slice them thinly and add them to soups or stews where they dissolve partially and thicken broths naturally. It got forgotten as industrial agriculture prioritized starch-heavy crops that store and ship easily. Jerusalem artichokes have a thin skin that bruises easily, and they rapidly lose moisture after harvesting, making them commercially challenging for large-scale distribution. But for the home gardener, they are virtually indestructible. Once planted, they spread vigorously and require minimal maintenance. Jerusalem artichoke still offers what it offered for thousands of years. In feudal Japan during the Edo period, burdock root, known as gobo, was a staple vegetable among samurai households, valued for endurance and vitality. Samurai warriors consumed it before battles, believing it provided sustained energy for long campaigns, and it was also a key ingredient in kinpira gobo, a stir-fried dish that remains popular in Japanese cuisine today. Traditional Chinese medicine also used it to cool the blood and support metabolic balance. In the classic text Shennong Benkao Jing, dating back to approximately 200 AD, burdock is described as a tonic herb that expels wind and nourishes the sinews. Practitioners prescribed it for conditions ranging from sore throat to digestive weakness to what they called heat toxins, symptoms that modern understanding recognizes as systemic inflammation. Here's what they understood through generations of observation that modern biochemistry has now confirmed in clinical detail. Burdock contains artichoke, a lignin compound shown in Journal of Ethnopharmacology Research to improve glucose uptake in skeletal muscle cells by activating AMP-activated protein kinase pathways. This is significant because AMPK is sometimes called the metabolic master switch. When activated, it increases glucose uptake and fatty acid oxidation, while inhibiting glucose production in the liver. Artichoke essentially mimics the effects of exercise at the cellular level, even in sedentary individuals. Beyond artichoke, burdock also contains significant amounts of inulin and mucilage compounds that soothe the digestive tract while feeding beneficial gut bacteria. It provides a unique combination of prebiotic and anti-inflammatory effects that few other roots can match. Here's the traditional use. Slice and stir-fry with sesame oil or in soups. Always choose fresh, firm roots and avoid canned versions with added sodium. Fresh burdock root should be approximately 1 inch in diameter and feel heavy for its size. After peeling, soak the sliced pieces in water with a splash of rice vinegar for 10 minutes to prevent browning and reduce any bitterness. It got forgotten because it doesn't fit into patented pharmaceutical models. As with many traditional medicinal foods, burdock's complex array of phytochemicals resists isolation into a single active compound, making it unattractive for drug development. Burdock root still offers what it offered for centuries. In 18th century Europe during wartime coffee shortages, French and German households roasted chicory root as a bitter coffee substitute. The practice became so widespread that by the Napoleonic era, chicory coffee was as popular as real coffee in many regions. In rural Mediterranean regions, it was also used to support digestion after heavy meals, a tradition that continues today in parts of Italy and Greece, where roasted chicory root tea is served after large dinners. Here's what they understood through generations of observation that modern biochemistry has now confirmed in clinical detail. Chicory root is another rich source of inulin, which modulates gut flora and improves glycemic response. However, chicory's inulin has a slightly different structure than that found in Jerusalem artichoke, with a higher degree of polymerization that makes it ferment more slowly and may provide a more sustained prebiotic effect. A randomized trial in Diabetes Care Journal found improved insulin sensitivity markers After 8 weeks of inulin intake, in this study, 68 men and women with prediabetes consumed either 15 grams of chicory-derived inulin or a placebo daily. The inulin group showed a 12% improvement in insulin sensitivity by the end of the study period, along with significant reductions in inflammatory markers like C-reactive protein and interleukin-6. Here's the traditional use: roast, grind, and brew like coffee, or add raw root to stews. Avoid heavily processed instant chicory blends that contain added sugar or artificial flavors. For the purest preparation, wash and chop fresh chicory roots. Roast them on a baking sheet at 300 degrees Fahrenheit for approximately 1 hour until they darken and become brittle. Then grind them in a coffee grinder before brewing. It got forgotten as coffee industrialization replaced regional substitutes. As global coffee trade expanded and prices dropped, the need for alternatives diminished. Today, chicory is primarily grown as a livestock feed or processed into commercial supplements, losing its place as a daily food. Chicory root still offers what it offered for hundreds of years. In medieval European herbal medicine, dandelion root was gathered in spring and used by monks for liver-cleansing tonics. Monastic medical texts from the 12th century describe dandelion as one of the most virtuous herbs for purifying the blood and supporting the liver, organs that are now understood to be central to metabolic health. Native American tribes also brewed it as a daily bitter tea for metabolic support. The Cherokee, Iroquois, and Ojibwe all used dandelion root preparations for digestive complaints and what they described as sugar imbalance. While they didn't have the language of blood glucose regulation, they recognized that dandelion helped maintain steady energy levels throughout the day. Here's what they understood through generations of observation that modern biochemistry has now confirmed in clinical detail. Dandelion contains teroxasterol and chicory acid, compounds shown in phytotherapy research to enhance insulin secretion and reduce oxidative stress in pancreatic cells. In animal studies, dandelion extracts have demonstrated significant protective effects on beta cells, the specialized pancreatic cells responsible for producing insulin. This suggests that dandelion may not only help existing insulin work better, but may also help preserve the body's ability to produce insulin in the first place. Dandelion root is also rich in potassium, iron, and beta-carotene, providing micronutrient support that enhances overall metabolic function. Chronic inflammation and oxidative stress are known drivers of insulin resistance, and dandelion's potent antioxidant profile directly addresses these underlying mechanisms. Here's the traditional use: roast roots for tea or simmer fresh slices. Always harvest from pesticide-free soil, ideally from areas at least 50 feet away from roadsides to avoid contamination from automotive exhaust. For fresh tea, simmer chopped roots in water for 15 minutes, steep for another 5, and strain. Roasted roots can be brewed similarly to coffee, offering a bitter, rich beverage that supports digestion after meals. It got forgotten because bitter foods fell out of modern diets. The modern palate has shifted dramatically toward sweet and salty flavors, leaving behind the bitter compounds that were once essential for stimulating digestive secretions and supporting liver function. Dandelion root still offers what it offered since antiquity. Ancient Aztec civilizations in central Mexico consumed jicama during long agricultural seasons as a hydrating, energy-stabilizing food. The Aztec name for jicama is zicamatl, which roughly translates to water root, an apt description for this crisp, juicy tuber that is nearly 90% water by weight. It was often eaten raw during harvest work, providing hydration and slow-release energy that sustained laborers through the hottest part of the day. Here's what they understood through generations of observation that modern biochemistry has now confirmed in clinical detail. Jicama is high in prebiotic fiber and vitamin C, and studies in Nutrients Journal show low glycemic response with improved satiety hormones after consumption. The fiber content is particularly notable. A single cup of raw jicama provides over 6 grams of dietary fiber, with more than 80% of that being inulin-type fructans that feed beneficial gut bacteria. What makes jicama especially valuable for blood sugar regulation is its unique combination of high water content, significant fiber, and modest carbohydrate load. With a glycemic index of just 17, jicama is among the lowest carbohydrate roots available. The glycemic index is barely half that of sweet potatoes and less than 1/3 that of white potatoes. Here's the traditional use. Eat raw slices with lime and salt, which enhances flavor while adding vitamin C that improves iron absorption. Avoid fried or sugar-coated commercial versions that strip away the root's metabolic benefits. It got forgotten because it doesn't store well for global supply chains. Jicama's high water content makes it prone to spoilage during long shipping routes, so it never became a commercial staple in temperate regions. Jicama still offers what it offered for ancient Mesoamerican farmers. In ancient Rome, turnips were a primary food for soldiers during military campaigns, valued for sustaining long marches. The Roman agricultural writer Pliny the Elder described turnips as one of the most important crops for feeding the empire's legions, noting that soldiers carried dried turnip slices as emergency rations. In Celtic Europe, they were a winter survival crop that sustained communities through months of snow and cold. The Celts so valued turnips that they carved them into lanterns to ward off evil spirits, a tradition that became modern Halloween jack-o'-lanterns when Irish immigrants reached America and found pumpkins more suitable for carving. Here's what they understood through generations of observation that modern biochemistry has now confirmed in clinical detail. Turnips contain glucosinolates that influence liver detox pathways and may indirectly improve glucose metabolism. Research in Food Chemistry Journal highlights antioxidant activity that supports metabolic resilience. These compounds are broken down during digestion into isothiocyanates, which have been shown to activate NRF2, a protein that regulates the expression of antioxidant enzymes and helps protect cells from oxidative stress. Turnip greens are actually even more impressive metabolically than the roots, containing significant amounts of vitamin K, folate, and antioxidants. In many traditional cultures, the greens were considered the more valuable part of the plant. Here's the traditional use: roast or mash like potatoes, but avoid deep frying, which introduces inflammatory fats and destroys many beneficial compounds. Young, small turnips can be eaten raw in salads. They have a mild, slightly peppery flavor that complements bitter greens. It got forgotten when refined grains replaced hearty root vegetables. As flour milling became more efficient and wheat prices dropped, the dense, calorie-rich turnip was gradually replaced by bread and pasta. Turnip still offers what it offered for ancient armies and farmers. In 17th century Scandinavia, rutabaga, known as swede, became a famine-resistant crop that sustained populations through long winters and crop failures. It was often stored in root cellars for months, where its thick skin and low water content prevented spoilage far longer than most other vegetables. Swedish farmers developed dozens of heirloom varieties, each adapted to specific microclimates and soil conditions. Here's what they understood through generations of observation that modern biochemistry has now confirmed in clinical detail. Rutabaga contains fiber and glucosinolate compounds that support phase 2 liver detoxification. Clinical data in the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry shows improved antioxidant enzyme activity after brassica intake. The specific glucosinolates in rutabaga are particularly potent activators of the body's detoxification pathways, helping to clear environmental toxins and metabolic byproducts that can interfere with insulin signaling. Rutabaga also provides a significant amount of vitamin C, A single serving delivers more than 50% of the daily recommended intake. This antioxidant support is crucial for protecting pancreatic beta cells from oxidative damage, which contributes to the decline in insulin production seen in type 2 diabetes. Here's the traditional use: roast with olive oil or boil into stews. Avoid overcooking into mush, which breaks down fiber and increases the glycemic impact. For the most nutritious preparation, steam rutabaga cubes until fork tender but still firm, about 12 minutes. Then toss with butter and herbs. It got forgotten as calorie-dense processed foods replaced seasonal eating. In the post-World War II food revolution, industrially processed convenience foods pushed traditional root vegetables to the margins of Western diets. Rutabaga still offers what it offered through harsh Nordic winters.